Hey everybody, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Anima Defenses. I started this week off with basically the same defense layout as I had at the end of the last one. I'm basically using the two save skills to make it very difficult to engage on the team, while also being able to launch a couple of difficult to deal with threats at the enemy if they try to set up too close. It's worked out pretty well. I did update a couple of things partway through the week. I've been trying to figure out how to get Ceres into the fight sooner. And I think by switching her into this column, it helps a little bit. I moved the healing tower down here. I'm probably going to end up moving it back up. It's a little too easy for a catapult to pick it off here, and then for Dorothea to get baited. I'm still thinking about how to improve this defense. There was one match in particular that really has me thinking about just the team as a whole. But overall it still held up pretty well, even outside of Ceres' bonus week, so that was good to see. And for the results, which I already started talking about, we had a couple of clean losses near the end of the week, which was unfortunate, but on the bright side I only lost lift from one of them. And outside of that, it was basically really successful across the board. So let's get started with this first match. This one was an interesting start to the week. They have a really nice set of threats here. Between Selena and 83 visible attack is kind of horrifying. Reagan, Selena's +3, right? Celica, who's a really good Galeforcer with her Refine. Edelgard's a wall, as usual. And Micaiah. Micaiah is basically in all of her versions, she's really good against this current roster. And an Altina. Bonus week makes her actually pretty solid, even though I think she's still kind of eclipsed by her winter version. This one ended very quickly, and a lot of that is just because I think they expected Celica to be able to deal with Edelgard, but she can't, and I wanted to make sure about this, so I did the math. She'd actually do 34 damage to Edelgard with her first two swings, and then only do 6 damage with the second set, and Edelgard would actually knock her out after the second Ruptured Sky. So that would be why they surrendered. This was not quite what I was hoping to see immediately following the previous match, but bright side, didn't lose lift from it. And if I'm honest, this was a pretty sloppy win for them overall. They brought a +10/+10 supported Hector to this fight, who, well, you know, it's Hector. His Refine is just incredibly strong. They also brought a +10/+10 Alm, who is in season this week, with an instantly charged Lunar Flash that spirals, so he always gets to use it on the first attack. He's very strong. They brought an out-of-season Azura, though, which was odd. They brought their Altina, Naga, and Reagan. Reagan doesn't even have an assist, which is really strange. So they just sort of shove Hector in and expect him to deal with everything properly. And he almost does. I think they might have forgotten about Close Guard on Veronica, because Hector barely misses this knockout. And Felix does a pretty solid job of making a dent. It's not really enough to threaten Hector outright, but... And then Veronica gets danced and picks up a knockout on Naga. Part of me wonders if Eliwood had been knocked out immediately, if we wouldn't have managed this anyway. But, probably not. Hector's very strong. Especially on a defense tile. And unfortunately, Edelgard can't get in to help break him down, so she's all the way up front. And Alm can't quite finish her off, but Reagan can move in to help.
I don't think so.
And then it's pretty easy to just dance Alm and pick up Veronica.
Into the line.
And they did a very good job of picking their target here. Even though Hector doesn't gain any health from this Aether, this disables Felix's Unity and Bow at the same time, which means that Felix can't actually do any damage to Hector. And Saros misses this knockout by 3 damage. So close. That actually just comes down to either her bonus week or more merges, and she'd have been able to finish him off.
Your luck's run out.
Yep, and Aether's enough for Hector to finish Felix off, and then Mirabilis doesn't have any chance. They didn't pick up either of the pots, so again, this was a pretty messy win from them, so I'm not too worried about it. But at the same time, it did get me thinking about how to get Saros into the fight a little bit sooner. This was another fun one, just for the chance to see a +10 Fae. Her Refine is actually very, very solid. Even though +5 to stats isn't quite as good as a set of tactics, it's close enough that there's not a lot of difference, and you can actually get a lot of value out of it by having all of those buffs attached to a weapon. They also brought a bike with Null C Disrupt, Velouria, Reagan, Leanne, and Altina. Double Dancers is fun. It usually gives you a lot of flexibility with how you move around the map. It is a little odd, though, to see Ike and Faye together, since they are basically both green tanks, so they don't do too good a job of covering each other's weaknesses. And, well, marking Ike on the defense tile is a bit of a recipe for disaster. Nope. And Eliwood just Galeforces through and picks up Velouria. The interesting thing here was that once he's panicked, Dorothea can actually finish him off.
I'm sorry.
Nope. And from here, it's not looking too good, but they decide to keep going anyway. Reagan can finish off Eliwood.
This is it for you.
And then they try to bait Edelgard with Altina, but I think they forgot that once they knocked Eliwood out, doesn't need to be danced or anything to just move in. So she moves in and picks up an easy knockout, and then her weapon actually turns this into a good fight for Edelgard.
No backing down. You can't stop me. No, but how?
And then Dorothea picks up another knockout
Watch your step.
on Reagan thanks to Wind's Mercy. She actually got a lot done this match, it was fun to see. And from here, well, there's nothing they can do. So they just concede the match. This was neat. It's always fun to see a streamer of some sort show up in the defenses. I haven't actually checked out their channel yet, but I'm planning to when I get some time. They brought a Lucina. It's got a very fun set of skills. Reagan, yeah, the bonus week Altina, who I actually really like this. This is a clever support with Velouria and Altina. It sets Velouria up for Gale Forces, and it also gives Altina a pre-charged Twin Blades, which is really, really useful for her, for just being able to break something that might usually shut her special down. I don't think it really would have done and does too much extra this match, but I can see how it would help in a lot of situations just to be able to send her in and have her Twin Blades something to start the fight. So they take a moment to set up, out of Veronica's range. And they start the fight here, probably to get this bolt tower hit. And Altina does actually clean up Illywood here, which is fun to see. A little unfortunate, since I'm the defender, but... Unfortunately, then, Veronica gets danced, and unlike her winter version, this Altina does not have Null Sea Disrupt, or access to it. And even though they did get a solid bolt tower hit here, they actually missed both Edelgard and Felix with it, which really doesn't help for future turns, so they just decided to concede there. This was another interesting one to see. This is the first time I've seen a Linja show up since Hero Rises. At least in anime seasons. And this isn't even the free one. Or they might have used trait fruits on her right away, which is fair. She's very, very good as a candidate for that. He also brought a bonus week Julia, Reagan, and Naga, and Plumeria, and Altina. So we missed their bolt tower again, and this time they're waiting for it. They just use Linja to try and test the trap. And this is where things got a little dicey, because I think they were hoping to pull everyone out of range after testing that trap. But Naga doesn't quite make it. And, well, then Eliwood comes in and Galeforce is on through.
Such power.
And then he gets to pick up Linja too. Which is nice for us. They get a really, really good bolt tower hit here, but losing those two is enough for them to surrender the match. This was another interesting one to see. It was the first close save match of the week, and I like the idea of this, but I think that having your close save unit be the same color as your ranged unit on the front side is probably not the best idea. Also, there's no real reason to use distant counter on your save unit, since they're only going to be fighting in melee. We got the Leon as their frontliner, another out of season Azura, one at Altina, Reagan, and Naga. So they just start this right away, using Leon to bait Felix forward. And it works out pretty well. Felix does get a really solid hit in here, though.
Your weakness.
And, of course, shutting down Soul means that Leon's not getting any health back from that. Unfortunately, Veronica can't get too much extra done for this. But Eliwood moves in and gets danced. And even though he can't finish off Edelgard here, he does get Galeforce. Which means that he just goes after the next target and picks up Reagan.
Not good enough.
Kind of odd when 38 hit points is the highest health target. We're a little out of position here, but at the same time we've gotten a lot of damage done. They use Altina to finish Eliwood off, and I don't know why they used Edelgard to body block. Especially since Leon just can't get a whole lot done to Edelgard here. And charging that Ruptured Sky was a mistake in the end.
No mercy.
Because it gives our Edelgard just enough damage to take theirs down. And then she gets danced, and well,
I wanted to be you, Ephraim.
Leon's not so good in melee. I'm still not entirely sure about this move. I think they were hoping for the Bolt Trap to be real, but even if it was, Ceros would have broken through this with Hardy Bearing, so... They might also have just been hoping that Altina would survive a hit, because with effective damage she might have been able to knock Ceros out. And this fun little chain of events where Ceros gets danced forward, Dorothea hops forward, and then gives Edelgard a warp pad to finish Azura off.
No mercy.
It's all over.
And from here there's just no way for them to get anything done, so they surrender. Clean losses are always a bit of an oof to see. And I was a bit surprised to see Linja on the team that did it. In the end, Linja herself was not the main reason for this loss, and it was actually mostly because of this tactic room, which gives them one turn where Veronica doesn't actually threaten this space to work with. And of course the unsniped bolt tower, which does a lot of work too. They also brought AQ Sigurd and Plumeria. Double Dancers does a lot, along with Reagan. Linja, of course. Disarm Trap is very useful for her. And a lot like the last Linja, it's hard for me to tell if this is the free one that someone used trait fruits on, or if this is one that they already had. They also have a Julia and a Naga. So they use the first turn to just test a couple of traps and break the Panic Manor, which is pretty important for them when they decide to go in on the third turn with the Bolt Tower damage. And because of the Tactic Room slowing Veronica down, it means that we don't activate the map right there, which lets them pull back out of the updated range on the second turn. And the Bolt Tower damage is just enough for Julia to finish Felix off. And without Felix, Lynn can go in and finish Veronica off. And get danced forward to get Elliot.
You're a wonder.
And this is why I ended up moving Saros over a space. Is because this actually lets them bait both dancers out without either of the other units moving first. Which is a bit unfortunate. It's a clever way to do it, though. They planned it out really well. Nope. And from here, it's really pretty easy for them to finish this off.
Go for it. Sit. You're finished. You're finished.
Even though Edelgard does survive all of that, which was funny to see. And she nearly survives Julia, too.
This feeling, this power.
Kind of makes me want to try and find a stance skill for her. Bracing stance 3 would be really, really cool. Yeah, and Julia just finishes Dorothea off, and gets danced and murders Saros. Saros is not getting anything done against a Julia. And they leave Mirabilis up just because, well, she's not going to get anything done, and they still want the pots, so it buys them an extra turn while they pick those up. Interestingly, Mirabilis actually did quite a bit of damage to that Seagard. Yep, and Julia closes the match out. It was well played from them. I do think, like I said, that they got a bit lucky with their structure placement, but they still played it really well. This one hurt a bit to see, actually, right on the heels of the last match. Thankfully I didn't lose lift for it, but it was after I'd just finished updating the layout to try and help Saros make it into the fight easier. And, well, not only did they snipe the healing tower and then not even take advantage of it, but they brought probably the perfect counter to this team with a Micaiah backed up by a close save Gustav. They've also got Peony and Reagan, Maltina, and a +10 Naga. So, part of the reason I think this is almost a perfect counter for the team, as it is right now, is because Gustav is a very, very good close guard tank for dealing with what I've got here. Because, as we're going to see here, while Eliwood does attack him, he can't actually get a Galeforce activated, thanks to the guard effect from Gustav's fighter skill. And without that, well, we can't really threaten any of the rest of the backline. And Null Disrupt Micaiah is a very good answer to Veronica. And while the rest of the team gets in a pretty decent formation, it's very easy for Reagan to clean Eliwood out. And for Micaiah to move in and take out Felix. Interestingly, Micaiah wouldn't have one-shotted Felix here without getting her debuffs cleared off and the extra drive attack buffs from Peony. But we still got it, so... Then they move Gustav in, and from here it's, yeah. Even if Micaiah can't actually deal with Dorothy in one turn, it's almost a good thing because they do still want it to get these pots.
Watch Watch your step.
And it's not like there are any other ranged threats, so Gustav just obliterates arrows with that effective damage. He actually might have been in trouble without it.
Know the strength of Asker.
And Ignis is more than enough for him to deal with Edelgard too. Yep. It worked out very well for them. It's a very good counter, like I said, to the team as I have it now. And again, really makes me hopeful that we'll end up getting Ace Fall and Shield Seal at some point. It would make Felix a lot harder to just plunk Micaiah in front of and deal with. Other than that, though, I'm still thinking about what kind of change I can make to the team that would really help with this. I might end up trying to work Thracier back in, but we'll see. It's hard, because I really do like the team as it is. It's just that Micaiah is a very, very noticeable weak point. Oh well. On to the next one. It is nice to bounce back from 2 clean losses like that with a success. I was starting to get a little worried, if I'm honest. They brought a Plumeria, a Henriette, who's not as intimidating as she was in her bonus week, an Altina, a maxed out Ike. I don't know, honestly, about this speed smoke and darting stance. It does help his speed, but I think like speed res solo is just usually going to be a lot better for him. And Pulse Smoke obviously is going to be a better smoke for him, although that's a bit more premium, so. They also brought a Lucina to support him, and a Reagan. So they just start this off right away. And unfortunately for them, without Pulse Smoke, Ike can't actually shut Eliwood down. And on top of that, he actually has exactly as much damage as he needs to finish Lucina off. Shove actually comes in pretty handy here, even though we don't finish Ike off. It's good to see this happening because it's basically what I was hoping to have happen, is that it helps clear some space. Just in case there's too much body blocking going on for the team to follow through. Well, the pivot, on the other hand, could have been better. They keep going for a little bit here. They use Altina to finish Eliwood off, and then Reagan can clear out the rest of Edelgard's hit points.
This is it for you.
But I think right around here they realized that Henriette's not going to be able to deal with this Felix, so they end up surrendering just there. This one was fun to see, actually, for more than just being a success. Because I haven't seen a +10 Claude in AR yet. He's very impressive. And yeah, that happened pretty quickly. They also brought them along their Naga, 2 Altinas, one of them Winter and one of them Normal, Reagan and Peony. So they basically just sat in place here and said go. Unfortunately, their Normal Altina is a bit of a weak link for them. And she can't quite deal with Eliwood. which lets him Galeforce and go for a second knockout on Reagan.
Not good enough.
And Altina does get to bait Veronica at the end of that, but at this point, Hollywood's already done quite a bit of damage. And while I do think they probably could have finished this off with Claude, losing those two is enough for them to surrender. This one was a very neat way to finish the week off. Because I don't think I've ever seen a Kempf on an offense team. And this is a very impressive Kempf. They paired him up with Velouria, which was really clever because Velouria pushes Kempf into range of getting a very easy Galeforce activation, and pushes herself into another very easy Galeforce activation thanks to her weapon and Timeless Pulse. And Wings of Mercy lets her follow in next to him. They've also got Velouria, and Naga, Altina, and Reagan. I do think they might have wanted another Galeforce on this team somewhere, but I'm not really sure where they'd fit it and keep using 4 mythics, so... Mostly because Kempf is using the Heavy Blade Seal. Getting their Bolt Tower sniped here really hurt them, I think. Just because it makes it much harder to actually punch through that front line. This smite was just to scout the combat forecast, I think. And they use the turn to get everyone else into position. And their bonus weak armor school actually is one of the MVPs of this match. Because that attack debuff is just enough to keep Kempf alive. And it's also just barely enough
I don't think so.
for Reagan to finish off Fatal Guard. Even though it's a bit of overkill here, the extra 2 points of defense for the combat with Kempf would have let her survive. Well, and Kempf would be dead, so there's that. Veronica gets deleted, but Velouria has a hard time dealing with Felix. She can't chew through him here, so she has to use Galeforce to finish him off. And, well, at this point they're out of actions, so everyone gets healed up and Eliod goes to work.
Goodbye.
You're not the only one with Galeforce. And he picks up Velouria too. Then Mirabilis actually gets to go in for the knockout on Kempf, which was kind of fun to see. She doesn't usually do much except dance or get stalled out, so... Dorothea can't quite outspeed Naga, so she only gets a token hit in here. At that point, though, with half their team down, they just decide to concede the match. It was a fun set of defenses this week. It was a bit of a shame to see how easily it got dismantled a couple of times, but it's a learning experience. It's ways to improve the defense going forward. So, hope you've enjoyed the videos, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.